The moment has come. Creative Shrimp, with the support of the Blender community, presents the first ever freemium video course on professional color management and color grading for 3D artists using DaVinci Resolve. DaVinci Resolve is a professional color grading software used in Hollywood, but also widely adopted by indie and hobbyist filmmakers all around the world. It's known for its amazing color grading toolset and how it makes it easier to achieve rich and cinematic color grades. What was crucial for its adoption and success is that it has a free version, which doesn't compromise on the power, making it a perfect match with Blender, which, needless to say, is also free. So you can take your awesome animations rendered in Blender and actually color grade it in the industry standard color grading software, adding that professional polish and tailoring the colors to your creative vision. All of that for free, or if you want to invest in Resolve Studio or some add-ons for Blender for a pretty manageable amount of money. But again, the main workflow being completely free. So we decided to release a video course which is also free, or freemium as we call it. We don't want to put it behind a paywall this time, in other words, so everyone can use it. We do it like this as we feel we are standing on the shoulders of the giants, such as Troy Sobotka, Juan Pablo Zambrano, Joe Genko, Adriano Oliveira, Iri Cho, and many others. And as we've mentioned before, the software itself is also free, so there's no upfront price for the course this time. You can get it at literally $0, essentially for free, or you can donate any amount that feels right to you. We feel that it's the right thing to do, even though it took us months or even years to wrap our head around it. I mean, how the whole color management thing works, and how to export the wide dynamic range from Blender and process it in Resolve without losing that range, so on and so forth. We dived deep into it and spent our time researching what is the gamma and color space, and how exactly to set it up correctly in Resolve to get the best result, and how the various settings influence the picture formation, so we can get most out of this workflow. You know, this stuff can be a rabbit hole, and there is a lot of confusion around this subject on the internet. So even the 3D rendering pros can often feel a bit lost at what buttons to press to get things right. The good news is that we at Creative Shrimp actually did our homework and built a workflow that we have been using since then to compose it and grade our Blender animations. We think that the results speak for itself. If you watched the animations that we made for our cinematic lighting course, for example, and for some other projects, that is precisely that workflow that we used to make the colors pop and add that cinematic touch to everything. The renders made in Blender and graded in Resolve, that's the combo. So finally, we're ready to share this knowledge with you. To make sure that the info we're gonna share is factually correct and we don't accidentally spread misinformation, we've been in contact with such luminaries as Troy Sobotka, Juan Pablo Zambrano, Joe Genko, Adriano Oliveira, and many more have been consulted along the way. Now let me walk you through the contents of this 4-hour course. And please don't worry if some of the terms may sound unfamiliar to you or straight up confusing. In the actual videos, we'll do our best to clarify all the terms, but still it's an advanced, complicated material. In the first introductory video, we'll learn how to properly export image sequences from Blender, what interchange format is the best for storing the wide dynamic range data, hint it's OpenEXR, so we'll get to know its properties and how it differs from PNGs and other final image formats. Then we'll talk about its compression, bit depth, and so on, again in comparison to the final image formats. And then we'll learn how to interpret it correctly in DaVinci Resolve, as by default it will look wrong. We'll learn to interpret it correctly via corrector nodes in Resolve to convert it from the linear to the display color space, and more. We'll also touch upon tone mapping, and just how to color manage EXRs properly, so the colors aren't clipped or oversaturated. As a bit of a topping, we'll sprinkle it with some theory on what is OpenEXR and an open image domain data in general, and how it fundamentally differs from, roughly speaking, PNGs or a closed domain data. Chapter 2 will be an actual pro color grading workflow in DaVinci Resolve, something that you can always return to as a reference. It'll be an hour-and-a-half behemoth of a tutorial, kind of the meat and potatoes of this course. In this one, we'll keep exploring the wide dynamic range export from Blender, talking about the RGB pixel values and how not all formats are made equal for storing such values, and some are just better at storing raw data. Similar to how RAW photography is better at storing light and color than against some other formats like PNGs. Then we will set up a physically correct exposure control and start building a professional color management and color grading pipeline that uses the industry standard logarithmic color space as the working space according to the best practices of color grading, and a separate display transform in the end. This video will also contain a quick overview of the amazing color correction toolset that Resolve offers, the sophisticated controls for saturation, color wheels for changing the overall color balance, selective hue adjustments, and so on. Well, yeah, a filmic saturation roll-off similar to how colors get withered out in real film emulsion where light hits the hardest. In brief, a quick overview of the industry standard color correction tools Resolve is famous for. Finally, to show how the entire pipeline works in practice, we'll go through a step-by-step color grading process of this shot rendered in Blender, then brought to Resolve. We'll break it up into manageable steps, each step being some kind of a color adjustment, and we'll just work on this shot to give it a creative treatment. In the next chapter, we'll talk about AGX and other amazing view transforms of Blender, and how they react to changing the exposure. The main point to drive home will be how to implement them in Resolve, and implement them in full so they do actually support the exposure adjustment and other crucial features. Beyond AGX that you all know and love, we'll actually go a step further and check some variations of AGX that you might be not as familiar with. And then some more view transforms, such as OpenDRT, 2499 and other. If you feel confused right now and think, what are you even talking about? Then good, you're up to some pretty eye-opening stuff then. To get some theory mentioned, we'll take a dive into how view transforms work in general and what makes them similar to photochemicals that we were using to develop raw photo negatives back in the day. This theory will be useful so you better understand how certain chemicals, or in case of Resolve, view transforms handle extreme saturation and complicated colors. If anything, I think you will be pleasantly surprised at the choice of free DRTs or display rendering transforms available to us beyond AGX in Blender. The DRTs with some cool extra options for adding that cinematic touch to your animations. Even though AGX will be our main focus still, as that's probably the most frequently asked question about the Blender to Resolve workflow, and something that apparently even the seasoned 3D artists struggle with. So we'll get it cleared. The next chapter is gonna be the peak of this Blender to Resolve series, you know, where the workflow really peaks, and probably my personal favorite as well. The multi-light layer workflow based on some simple compositing. The premise is simple. There are some light layers in Blender. For example, the environment light, the sun, the light for reflections, the light for whatever you may have in your scene, including volumetric effects and the submerged starship lights, of course. And then these light layers are rendered separately, each one being an EXR image sequence. And then these light layers are composed together in Resolve, following a physically correct light addition. This workflow shines when you want to create an infinite variety of looks, very cinematic looks, with just reshuffling these layers and applying slightly different color grading. After watching this tutorial, you'll also become familiar with some pretty cool optimization techniques that use the multi-layer rendering, such as skipping frames in Blender and then regenerating them in Resolve, or applying temporal denoise on a per-layer basis. A disclaimer though, some of the advanced denoising techniques would require the paid studio version of Resolve. I'm sure you will be as excited as I am about adding this to your armament of 3D artists tools. As far as our Creative Shrimp stuff goes, we've been using that a lot in our work. I mean, this workflow. And actually, when we showed it to some really experienced Blender users, we were able to wow them with what is possible in Resolve. So something tells me that you will really like it. I wonder if this has already shifted your evaluation of this donation-based product. That's how we plan to monetize it, to provide so much value for free that it becomes ridiculous and you support us with your donation. This isn't all though. Chapter 5 will be about using LUTs or lookup tables in Resolve and getting to know what is it, why is it such a popular color grading tool, and what is the setup for using LUTs correctly in Resolve, because there's a lot of simply wrong information floating around. LUTs are famous for offering us that kind of an Instagram filter style color adjustment, literally browsing through different looks in seconds. So in this chapter we'll zoom in onto this workflow and talk about some technicalities of using LUTs in the way that is compatible with the Blender's output. We will also share a ready-made pack of creative LUTs as a bonus, the LUTs that actually work, but more about it later. Besides color grading, Resolve offers some useful non-color grading features. So in another video we'll take a look at various time-saving tricks, such as skipping frames in Blender and as a result saving a lot of render time, and then taking this choppy footage and applying optical flow in Resolve to magically smooth it out and regenerate the missing frames. Or adding the fake motion blur. Or how to take an extremely noisy Cyclops render and apply spatial and temporal denoise in Resolve to greatly reduce the amount of grain. And do it without introducing the frame flicker, something that Blender struggles with. Not to mention super scale or super resolution, which is one of the features exclusive to the Pro version, or to the Studio version of Resolve rather, but still worth mentioning as it's another time saver. That isn't all you get for $0 or more. There's also the bonus stack. There are the high dynamic range EXR sources available, so you can start trying things out right now without having to render anything. Just download these professional EXR sequences, import them in Resolve and give it a try. The second bonus is the Pro View Transforms LUT pack, kindly shared by Joe Genko, creator of the Pixel Manager OCIO config. It is the ultimate collection of the View Transform LUTs that you can simply drag and drop over your footage rendered in Blender in Resolve to get access to the best view transforms available, including AGX. Finally, the third free bonus in this bonus stack is the collection of the Creative Shrimp LUTs concocted by us in the Creative Shrimp Labs, especially for this occasion. That is, if you want to try some professionally designed looks to grade your 3D renders in Resolve really quickly. Finally, given that this whole color management thing can be confusing as hell, there will be a dedicated channel in our Discord where you'll be able to ask any questions, or on the other hand, extend your help to other students. Where's my coffee? Thank you so much for watching. I hope this video kind of sparkled your interest, and who knows, maybe you're itching right now to download everything and start absorbing this workflow. If that's the case, either wait for the videos to appear on our YouTube channel, because everything will appear eventually on our YouTube channel, but if you want to get it right now, feel free to check our Gumroad page and just download it all. Even though you can get it all for free, I would really appreciate if you support our mission to make this workflow accessible to everyone and actually attach a price tag to it yourself. Just pick any emoji from the list. It took a long time to research and produce, so any support would be much appreciated. Pick your emoji.